Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is the Charlton and Big C Sports Show. We are talking sports. Today is March the 8th, 2016. I want to thank everyone for listening worldwide, especially some of our growing fan base in Latin America. So bienvenidos to our Latin American audience. And Big C, as we get started today, I also want to take another chance to offer condolences to the Reagan family. We know we lost First Lady Nancy Reagan, wife of the great Ronald Reagan, and just over the weekend. So our hearts go out to their family. We know she was a great First Lady, and we also know that Ronald Reagan was a great president. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, we're all Americans, and I think he was a great leader. Big C, your thoughts on Nancy Reagan's passing?
Well, she's going to go down in the annals of history as a marvelous woman, a marvelous co-leader of the United States as well as the world, Charlton. Nancy did so many things for children, and I think that's the main part of her legacy, is what she did for children as a First Lady. She also helped, Ronald Reagan, the president, bring down the Eastern European bloc wall to help break down communism. So she's really going to be a legacy in United States history. And, like you said, condolences to the Reagan family and friends for the loss of a great First Lady.
Yeah, definitely so. And I also want to say this segment is brought to you by Cadillac. Go visit your Northern California Cadillac dealer. Go test drive the Cadillac Escalade, a beautiful, powerful car, and tell them that you heard about them through Charlton and Big C. Now, Big C.
Now, Charlton, you talk about Cadillac. We just saw the Doral open down in Florida, and they were sponsoring Donald Trump's tournament.
Yes.
And I wonder, next year, will he be saying, go see Cadillac?
Well, I don't know, but I do tell you what, when you have so many things happening in politics, and then this is not about being Democrat or Republican, it's a sports show, but everybody loves sports, and people who love sports also pay attention to politics. So I just thought it was ironic to have someone like Donald Trump trying to become the next president of the United States, and he had such negative things to say about people who are south of the border, and we have a large audience south of the border, so of course, he has a chance to say what he wants. Some networks won't push back on it. But I do want to also bring this up, Big C. We know the great Peyton Manning just retired, and what a great year he had as a Bronco. We mentioned 12. He's the 12th quarterback to win multiple Super Bowls, 5 MVP awards, 14-time Pro Bowler, 27 career playoff games, and that's a great thing. But the news right now that just happened last night, his backup quarterback, Osweiler, who also took over, I think he played in about 5 games for the Broncos.
Yeah, he was 5-2 as a starter for the Broncos, Charlton.
Okay, as a starter for the Broncos. Now, think about what just happened. They were just over the news, and I can't really believe I saw what I saw because a lot of people are not making a big noise about it, especially when you talk about NFL athletes, and sometimes they have these off-the-field transgressions where there's a guy like a Ray Rice that's shown, punching his wife, where there's a guy... Hardy, who's been said so many negative things.
Hardy, who was in Carolina, former defensive end, who's with the Cowboys now.
Yes, and then we've had former Super Bowl quarterbacks that were accused of assault on women, and not a lot of pushback about that. But here's a guy, and for all the women listeners, women make up half of the NFL audience, half of the viewership, half of the fan base. Did I not see Osweiler pushing a woman outside of a pizza joint? Now, I know the media's kind of saying, well, all he did was push her, he didn't hit her. To me, that just seems like a wrong message. What are your thoughts on that, Big C?
Well, Charlton, that's once again a man laying his hands on a woman. Brock Osweiler went over the lines. I mean, if you think about this past football season, all the crap we heard about Johnny Manziel getting into it with his girlfriend, and this was someone he was in a relationship with. This is Brock Osweiler pushing a complete stranger. Here's a guy who was in the Super Bowl, a little over a month ago.
Yeah.
And being raved as one of the top free agent quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, there's a double standard when it comes to discipline of players in the NFL. And you spoke about Greg Hardy, lost an entire season for an incident with a former girlfriend.
Yeah. We
had Adrian Peterson, lost an entire season for disciplining his son down in Texas. We had Ray Rice, who has lost his career, for an incident with his current wife now.
Yeah.
Then you look at this but current quarterback in the NFL starter who had 11-month span with 2 alleged sexual misconduct incidents. One was the woman at Lake Tahoe at a golf tournament.
Yeah.
another one down in Georgia 11 months later. And now you look at this incident with Brock Osweiler. Neither one of these quarterbacks have faced discipline from the NFL. So there's a double standard. If you're a white quarterback in the NFL, just imagine if this would have been Colin Kaepernick,
yes,
Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, one of those quarterbacks, Tremel Taylor in Buffalo,
yeah,
that got into an incident with a woman that called the police, or even the physical contact that went on viral on the media outlets or on the internet.
Yeah.
What would be the back cry from the nation, even from the NFL? Goodell would not wait 2 days to make a decision on that. He would be judge and jury and hanging somebody.
Ironically, Goodell has been inauspicious. He's been so quiet about this incident because you do bring up a point. Now, when I hear men on network television, sometimes it's ESPN, sometimes it could be the NFL Network or Fox or whomever it is, I hear these talking heads going, yeah, but he didn't punch her. And ironically, I even hear some women saying, well, he was defending his wife. But I just think about this. If Ndamukong Suh or Greg Hardy or someone like a big known, well-known person that's always in trouble, whether it's football, basketball, or baseball, is that the image that even women are saying it's okay that he pushed this woman? He did not once, but he did it twice.
You know, the incident, Charlton, is that he put his hands on a female. Now, we just all, the whole nation is still reeling after this Erin Andrews incident where the guy just took pictures of her through a peephole in a hotel. She was awarded $55 million in this incident.
Yes.
Now, there was no physical contact made.
Right.
You know, she's saying that she's distraught emotionally, but Erin Andrews spends her life, makes her livelihood from going around interviewing half-naked men in locker rooms, as well as on the sideline at games. So is she going to say that she can't be around men any longer? No, I don't think so. She's going to go to work next week, and she'll be fine. You know, she's going to be even finer with $55 million in her pocket.
With $55 million,
you know, when you look at these incidents with these quarterbacks, that there's a double standard served in the NFL and society, that they are allowed to get away with physically contacting a woman in public. Now, if he's protecting his wife, all he had to do was put a barrier. He didn't have to put his hands up. Brock Osweiler is 6'7", 245 pounds.
Yeah.
Why does he need to put his hands on a woman?
And see, that's the egregious part, too. Because I know we have a lot of women that listen to our program. And we know that domestic assault is a heinous crime. And we know that it happens too often in the United States and even around the world. But I've seen more pushback on Sharapova, the great tennis star, admitting to using an illegally banned substance. And people have said, well, what a bad thing to do. She was having some type of knowledge of this happening, and she was having an unfair advantage. But there's more pushback on that than it is for a woman being pushed by an NFL football player who's accustomed to playing against 350-pound men. No pushback whatsoever. I even hear women on the radio and on the news saying, well, he didn't hit her. Is that the message we're trying to send to young girls and even women who follow sports? It's okay to be pushed but not hit?
You know, Charlton, last week, I heard an announcer on a network when they were criticizing his co-announcer was criticizing the quarterback in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco getting this $66 million contract extension.
Yes.
And saying the guy hasn't been productive. He was one of the few people on television saying it.
Yeah.
But his co-host on the show said, well, they're rewarding him for past performance. And, he said, well, that's not how you do that. He said, well, I'm just trying to keep my job, so I don't want to say anything negative.
Yeah.
Now, that's taking the cowardly out, because if you're talking about rewarding guys on past performance, let's look at the great Terry Bradshaw. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers probably owe him about $200 million. If we want to reward somebody on past performance, call Terry Bradshaw and say, hey, Terry, we just want to sign you to a one-game contract, but we're going to give you $200 million because you gave this organization a legacy and 4 Super Bowl wins, which nobody was ever matched.
Well, it's like Richard Pryor, the great Richard Pryor, would say, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes when it came to what you saw? And there are people telling us right now that it's okay for a player, and I think this is a bad precedent. I really do. And I wish that people in our position would say something about it, because we've heard so many times that athletes get a pat on the back. They get a pat on the back, and everything's okay because you don't want to hurt a guy's chances of making $45 million for being a backup quarterback. I mean, when you think about the great guys like Joe Montana, even Roger Staubach, who's gone on to become a real estate mogul, but you think about some of these great players, even what you talked earlier in the program about the great Doug Williams, how he threw 5 touchdown passes in the Super Bowl and never got re-signed. And here's a guy in Osweiler that pushed a woman twice. And I don't want to see it just brushed under the carpet like a lot of people will. I think he had another teammate in college at Arizona State, Vontaze Burfict, who was
a linebacker with the Cincinnati Bengals, who has gotten suspended 4 games at the beginning of the season next year, Charlton, for a hit that he laid on the field.
Yeah.
Now, this was a hit that he laid on field against a player that had a uniform on just like him.
Antonio Brown.
That was a paid professional football player, not a woman on the street to be pushed. Now, think about it as Vontaze Burfict had to push this woman. What would be the national outcry?
Well, we would still be hearing about it on the news.
Nation as well as the commissioner.
Yes. And I think also, as we bring up the commissioner in this section, it's sponsored by BMW, the ultimate driving machine. If you're looking for the ultimate driving machine, go down and test drive the new 750 BMW. It is truly a flagship sedan. And speaking of flagship, Big C, I know that when we look at some of these commissioners that run these great sports teams, we have Adam Silver with the NBA. And for the most part, things are going smooth. But I do remember an incident with Ron Artest where he went up into the stands and he punched a fan. So there was a lot of uproar over that, and he was actually suspended and fined. Now here's Osweiler. If you're
lost an entire season behind it, Joe.
An entire season. So are they saying if he would have only gone up into the stands and pushed a fan, he would have been okay? They would have talked about it for 2 minutes and saying, well, he's trying to defend somebody? Because that's what's happening with Osweiler. How do you see the contrast there?
Well, even you talk about that. Look at Dennis Rodman several years ago, many years ago when he was with the Bulls.
Yeah.
And he kicked the cameraman. You know, the cameraman tried to play it off like he was kicked in the groin.
Right.
He actually kicked the camera. I believe Rodman was suspended for about 22 games.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of money. And, he was villainized.
Yeah.
For that incident. But he kicked the camera.
Yeah.
And that was a man. Here's Osweiler attacking a woman, and it's okay. I listen to so much about Goodell talk about protecting the shield.
Yeah.
Okay, the image of the league. Here he is in appeals court right now fighting Tom Brady again over an incident that happened over a year ago, trying to suspend Tom Brady. He's after individuals that he wants to go after.
Yeah.
And then he leaves those alone. When we look at the Denver quarterback situation, we had the allegations of not Tom Brady, but Peyton Manning when he was in college at the University of Tennessee.
Yeah.
And the University of Tennessee has spent a lot more money defending that case and settling cases than what Aaron Andrews received.
Yeah.
But when you look at this double standard that's being pushed out about protecting the shield, the commission has been judge and jury and fast to act when there's been minorities players in these incidents. Peyton Manning also had the HGH allegation. Yeah. Passing that off to his wife. Now, I'd like to see what his wife needs human growth hormone for.
Well, that's a cheap out because you can always say that stuff wasn't mine as we hear things like that. And as we finish up on this talk, I just want your thoughts again. And this is mainly because unfortunately, Big C, a lot of people, they can't do straight talk. They can't do real talk. We know they got something piped in their ear and they got a teleprompter. Somebody's telling them what to say. But if you are a man out there and you're listening to this program and you have a daughter or a wife or even a sister or especially a mother, if you're going to say it's okay for a pro athlete who's trained to be aggressive, big and strong on the field but not off the field, are we really just going to give this guy a pat on the back when he pushes a woman? And then we're still saying it's more important that we talk about him getting a $45 million contract. Nothing of Ray Rice, nothing of Greg Hardy, nothing of guys like Vontaze Burfict. I just think that's so egregious for people in our position to say nothing. And we have so many women who suffer in silence because, unfortunately, they say, well, why would I come forward? No one's going to believe me anyway. And I think sometimes they're right, Big C.
They are right, Charlton. There's tons of battered women's shelters across America. And for this very reason, because as a woman speaks out, they're going to look, hey, you're going to destroy his career. He's